Faith Forged in Fire, where we dive headfirst into the unique challenges and triumphs that comes with being a firefighter, all while exploring what it means to live out a biblical worldview. Join us as we find hope, perseverance, and faith in the midst of the heat and chaos. Welcome to the podcast. All right, guys, welcome back. This is a pretty cool episode for one reason, and one reason only.
It's episode 75.
Yeah, 75. It is. Can you believe it?
Is that where we're at? 75?
Rich and I have made
it might be
70.
It might be number 32, but the notes for the show, if you would ever read these things.
Good point, Rich. Good point. I do read them. I just got the 75.
I did. Like
75 episodes.
Unbelievable.
Man, I can't
Pretty
believe
good.
that.
I know, that's a lot.
Man, that's
From
well.
you and I sitting around going, hey, we should kick that old podcast back off again.
I think you were the one that sat there and talked about that, and I sat there and went, "Oh, I hope he doesn't ask me because I'm going to be a bad guy to have on a podcast."
And you're 75 episodes in.
Yeah, still haven't got
Look where we're
fired.
at. Yeah, I know. Look where we're at today. We brought this goofball in. We got
That's
this
right.
goofball in, and
this goofball.
Oh yeah, wake up, Jake, would you?
Yeah, I wish guys on the podcast could see this. Jake sits to my left for you guys. Well, everybody sits to my left, but Jake isn't here this week. He's got a busy life, so he wasn't able to make it tonight, which equals he won't be like me last month.
Yeah, you miss one night, you miss it all.
Yeah.
So Jake is he's kind of chilling out with a microphone. He's not going to say much tonight.
Yeah, Rescue Randy. So if you're listening,
Yeah.
if you listen to the podcast, just take a minute and jump over to
That's right.
YouTube.
Yeah, take a look.
And you can take a look.
See what Jake, and this is what Jake normally does look like.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're just calling him out tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He usually naps anyways.
We gotta put a big beard on him too. You know, really cool.
We
beard.
should.
Gotta get one of those.
Yeah.
I'll stop at Dollar General and get a wig.
Yeah. Should be great.
Should have said something. I got a fake beard at home. I didn't even think about that. I could have brought that. All right. Anyway, episode 75.
Wow.
Is, I don't know how I feel about this.
You're getting old.
Well, I feel like this is a cheesy one.
It is cheesy.
It is cheesy, sort of.
So, I mean, leave it up to Steve and I. I'm sure that we could get the subject changed on you and have it derailed in 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Because there's only one adult supervisor on the podcast tonight, and that's you, and we outnumber you.
Yeah.
So I found this topic a long time ago. It might have just been you and I still, long time ago. And I didn't even intend it to be like the 75 episode. It just happened. But I found someone, and I've tweaked it a little bit here, but I found someone who did 10 ways that Jesus is like a firefighter. And I was like, oh, that's so cliche, kind of cheesy. But there's some interesting thoughts here. So we'll
I
work.
can't wait to hear them because I'm at a loss.
Yeah.
We'll work through this.
Because most of the firefighters I know are nothing like Jesus. Nothing.
Yes, that's very
Some
true.
of them think they're the savior. I will
true.
give you
Oh,
that.
yes.
That's true.
Some
Yes.
of them have a God complex.
in their own mind.
Yes.
Is one thing.
Yes.
So first one,
Some of them
you're going to
drive
laugh
like-
at this one.
Oh, no.
Okay. Jesus was good at following orders. He wasn't a freelancer, right? Like we talk about that. And the point is, not every firefighter is good at following orders, but there is a chain of command and we are expected to follow it. Jesus said, as he came to earth, his response to the Father was, not my will, but yours. And I think, as firefighters, we're expected to take orders. We're expected to do what we're asked. I know, Chief, you do your best to keep your people safe, but there's some times that you have to ask them to do things that are not safe. Mm-hmm. And that's, and it does it. It feels cheesy in some ways, but Jesus came. He did not do the safe thing. He followed the orders. He went to the cross. Thankfully,
And he didn't do the easy thing either.
He didn't do the easy
He did
thing.
the hard thing. He went down the path, and good, bad, or otherwise, that was the path he went. So
Right. and that's what we're expected to do. So that one I'll take. I think that's a good one. Number 2, Jesus is always ready to help when we call. Again, I would say, yeah, I mean, isn't that what we do? We're there to help. We're ready, and we're ready for whatever it is. Now the difference is,
Do we respond?
well,
Or do we stay on the couch and watch the Lions lose?
and the difference is, of course, it's not like Jesus is just there to be well, there's sometimes I think we feel like we're just helping somebody who made some pretty dumb choices. And I'm sure there's times that God is like, all right, you, I don't know what you were thinking,
Right.
but I'll dig you out of this one, kind of thing. But yeah, he's always there. I think about even the thief on the cross, and what he cried for mercy, cried for help, and Jesus was there to help him.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'll give him that one too. Here's a good one though. Here's where I think they maybe a little less, but more for us to think through. Jesus always treated people with care and compassion. We just had a conversation, Rich and I did. We were a part of a meeting where this came up, where a younger firefighter was reminded by a senior firefighter, an older firefighter, that, hey, man, it might even be a frequent flyer.
Right.
You might think they're faking it. You might think they're making a big deal out of it. I mean, we've all had those. You go and you're like, in your mind, you're like, really?
Oh, no, this guy again.
And not to mention it's 2:00 in the morning, and
They've been sick since Sunday, and it's Monday at 2:00 in
Yeah.
the morning. Right.
well, Jesus treated everyone with care and compassion, and that's what we're supposed to do too.
Right.
It's not easy when you're cutting a drunk driver out of a car that's just killed somebody to treat them with care and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we're called to do.
That's one of the most difficult things I think we do on the job,
Yeah.
because we're
Yep.
passing the judgment.
Right. Right.
Oh, the guilty guy lived, the innocent guy
Yeah.
died.
And now I got to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But man, we think about scripture and just what it says about us before we knew Christ as sinners, enemies against God, fighting against God. And Romans said, while we were still sinners, while we were still guilty, while we were still against God, he demonstrated his love for us by dying for us. And just that reminder that in that moment, as hard as that is, we have that's what Jesus did for us.
He did a lot more than that.
Exactly.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's a good one. And it's a good reminder that no matter what we're running, the frequent flyer, the addict, the whatever, Jesus did so much more for us. We can get up in the middle of the night and go help somebody.
Well, and like we've talked about before, to us, you kind of get used to things, and now to us, when we get this phone, the pager goes off and you're reading it and you're going like, really? Come on. There's times you get this feeling that it's just kind of an annoyance. Like you've said before, you got to remember that this might be the first time this person has ever called 911.
Yeah.
And to them, it's a big deal.
Yep.
So we need to go there with the respect and the attitude and the care that it is a bbig deal.
Yep. Yeah, and one of the questions I often ask when I get on scene is when it's one of those where you're like, okay, why did you call now? You've been dealing with this forever. And I will ask them, and I ask them kindly, but because I want to know. I'm trying to assess the situation. Right.
Yep.
What is different now that made you call when you've been dealing with this? You just told me you've been dealing with this for the last 3 weeks. What made you call today? And generally the answer is, I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yep.
Well, then whether I agree or whatever doesn't matter. Now you need my care. You need my compassion because you are at the end of your rope.
Well, and what we're seeing also, as you know, is we're seeing the physical signs and symptoms. What other things are going on in their life that we don't know about? That's where I think the compassion, unless you just ran a call where you know that her husband or somebody had passed away, you don't have any idea. This lady, you might go like, oh, here we go kind of situation. And then you find out that something has happened in the past and, she may be going through
a really tough time,
really bad time right now. And you just walking in there and being a kind, loving person could really give her some faith in humanity.
Yep.
That's a good point.
And that goes for anybody.
Yeah.
The ordinary person at the grocery store.
Yeah.
The guy in the Subaru that I wanted to pull out and teach how to drive at the call. Those kind of people. You got to have a little compassion.
All right, number four. I thought this was a really good one.
Uh-oh.
He came to serve, not to be served. When we show up for anything, what are we there for?
To serve.
To serve, not to be served. For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. That's what we're there for. Even if it comes to that, even if it comes to giving our life, we're there to serve.
It just came to mind. I don't know why this just popped in my mind. I was thinking like 9/11. All those firefighters went up the tower. And they're running up, and people are running down the stairs, and gave their life to serve their community. The flag behind you, those 19 men who went to serve their community and didn't make it. So how many fire guys go and they put it all on the line? And sadly enough, and we talked about this in the previous podcast, we talked about that when Jesus is with you on the call. What if when you're going on the call where you know that this is probably it, where you haven't, you hear all these things about those 9/11 guys, and there's a lot of those guys that knew. I don't think I'm coming home. I think this is it. Like this is my final call. That's gotta be strange, man. Thinking about that now.
Yeah. Well, and even just the daily stuff. One of the things I appreciate about the large department, the career department that I'm chaplain on, is just the chief really has this this feeling, and I've heard him say so many times, when you get your paycheck, look at the name on that paycheck, and it's the city of, right? And he said that you get that paycheck because of the taxpayers that you serve. So serve them well. I mean, I don't care if it's opening the door at the store. I don't care if it's a call that you've run 20 times. I don't care what it is. You're here to serve them in any way needed. And they do. They go out of their way to serve. And I love watching that. I've been so impressed. You go down and they run a call on a homeless person. They treat them the same way. Generally, you have one or two, but they treat them the same way that they treat, the next critical person.
Right.
And I think that's something that is good for us to remember. I try to remember that on any scene, but especially those that you're like, man, I don't really want to be here. I try to keep that in mind. We've had the conversation on here that most of the clothes I own are fire department related in some way.
Right. Yep.
Well, when I have those clothes on, I try to make sure that I'm definitely opening the doors, giving up a parking place, whatever.
Right.
Because if they look at that and they see whatever fire department, I want them to think highly of somebody who's on that department, because I'm here to serve, not to be served. And I think that comes into play with, how many times do we run a call and we never know the outcome of that call? Did we make a difference? Did we save a life? It's very rare that somebody comes back and says, thank you. Right? I almost died that day, but because of you guys, here I am. I made it. Thank you. And that's okay. That's not why we do it. We're here to serve, not to be served. yes, it's encouraging, but that's not why we do it.
Right.
All right, number 5. He enters the worst places to help those in need. I think that's another, just a good reminder. That's what I found. I thought at first I was like, these are cheesy, but how many, and I don't say this to downplay, but because this is kind of a conviction to me in that how many gross houses do we go into, or, where you're just like, man, how can people even live here?
Mm-hmm.
And immediately you're already struggling with your attitude, right? Like, Jesus came and he was in the worst places. He ate with the worst people. Even the illustration here in Mark, walking amongst the cemeteries, the evil spirits, but he ate with the beggars, the diseased. Like, it didn't matter. Jesus was around those people with love and compassion.
And intentionally.
He put himself there. Yeah, think about the woman at the well who was a Samaritan who the Jews absolutely hated. And the Bible says he made it a point. John says he made it a point to go through Samaria because he knew there was somebody there who needed him.
Right. Mm. Yeah, because we have the opportunity sometimes to miss those things, unless you're responding to a call. But he very easily could have taken the nice roads.
Yeah.
He took the hardest way he could.
Yeah, so just a reminder to me that when I'm in those situations, that's what Jesus did. And if I truly want to follow him and be a light, I have an opportunity to put myself in those situations with a good attitude. All right, numbers. So Steve, you're quiet. You got anything to add to
I'm listening. Well, no, I don't run calls, so
Right.
it's hard for
No,
me.
I know. I know.
Some of these subjects
Yeah.
are so
No,
tough because I just sit here and listen because I don't know much, because I never run calls.
Yeah, but we were talking about that the other day. That's why I think I love having you ask when we're talking about this stuff. I love having you ask the questions because they're genuine questions that a lot of our listeners would have. I think you fill that role well.
Does it scare you that PJ and I were talking about you last night at like 10:30 at night?
We were trying to figure out how to get him off the podcast so he didn't make it to 75, but we never actually figured that out.
I thought it was Jake who we're trying to get rid of.
I thought it was both.
Oh,
back to the original.
Go back to the original and go back to the...
I'll go back to the original with Jason. I don't know that I want to go through that chaos.
Yeah. Hey, when are you going to have him on, by the way?
I don't know.
Talking about it.
We got all kinds of guests we need to have on.
I know.
But life happens,
Well, I just got another guy from a surrounding fire department named Andrew that wants to be a special guest.
Do you?
Really?
Man, we got to start getting these guys.
He's super cool, dude.
Is he... Really? Is he?
Yeah.
He totally was like, hey, man, I'm going to be on your guys' podcast?
He said something about sometimes he talks like a sailor. So,
oh, well, that'll be an interesting podcast.
First time we...
Beep, beep, beep. I'm sorry.
All right. No, you're good. You're good.
Back on track.
Number 7. He sees past the wounds and sees the person. Thinking especially of those, people with leprosy, and that did not stop him. How many times... this is another one of those attitude things I struggle with sometimes is you show up and it's somebody, they've been dealing with this for a long time. They don't go get it fixed. They've taken themselves off their medicine because they just don't want to take it anymore. Like, they just don't feel like it. And now we're there in this situation and they've just literally let themselves go. And it's not even necessarily because, they don't want to live. It's just they don't care. Like, it's too much work to go get my medicine filled, and then they wonder why they had to call 911. Well, then you're reminded Jesus looked past that and saw the person that was there that needed the love, that needed Christ. So as cheesy as in some ways I thought this was, these just have been a reminder, like, you dummy. You're supposed to go reflecting Christ when you go to these calls.
Right. But it kind of in a weird way, this topic is a lot like Bible verse. Some Bible verses are. Not that Bible verses are cheesy, but you can read a couple lines in a Bible verse and go like, oh yeah, that's cool. But like with you and I in Bible study, you go like, yeah, wait a minute. Let's stop right here. Let's dig into this a little bit. And then all of a sudden you're going like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, those 5 verses were so much deeper than what I thought they were. So it is pretty kind of cool that.
And maybe it's the way it's presented, right? It's the fact, well, 10 ways Jesus is like a firefighter seems cheesy. But if you just look at it as, here's 10 things Jesus did that I should do as a firefighter, then you're like, oh, I think that's probably where it changes.
Right.
Here's one. This will hit from our conversation a couple of weeks ago. I'm trying to think of how this fits in our podcast recording. Recording-wise, it fits last night. Listening-wise, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. John 11:35, Jesus wept. He weeps with those who weep. And man, I thought this is a good one because, and now as you're listening to this, it was several weeks ago now, but there was a Rich, well, I guess I could say Rich and I was there. I feel weird saying Rich and I was just there, but a difficult call in which we had some firefighters that were struggling with that call. Yep. And there were some tears. And that's okay because, man, we just had a lot of conversation about how we don't have to suck it up, Buttercup. We don't. Right. And Jesus didn't. It's okay to weep with those who weep. One of the people involved, and for those of you who have been listening, this goes back to the 4-year-old that passed away. A relative who was on the scene noted that, and when they posted, it seemed to mean a lot to them that there were firefighters with tears in their eyes.
I think there is this persona, if that's the right word, Jake's not here to correct me, that we're heroes and that nothing affects us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to have the public look at that, it lets them know that their feelings, if we're these heroes that's supposed to be able to do all these miraculous things and save lives and go into burning buildings when everybody's running away and all that stuff.
We fight what you fear.
Yeah, if we're able to show emotions, I think that allows them to realize that we're humans.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's okay for me to cry. Because, I mean, you're not going to stop family from crying at the loss of a kid.
Yeah.
You're not. But they also have a little bit of comfort to say, hey, it's okay to feel this rotten because the quote-unquote heroes were even affected by this loss.
Yeah, and just so I know, because I don't know, again, I've not ran calls, but is that something, do you guys show emotion or do you guys wait to show the emotion when they get back to the station kind of thing? Because I've always been under the impression, and just to go like we were talking about, I've always had the impression that guys, no matter what the call is, they handle it there and then they deal with it later kind of thing because they're trying to be professional and do their job.
And most times if you were, I would say, in a house, and like I explained last night, if you're in this situation, and I warned some of the new guys that this may affect you on future calls, and like PJ and I said, you're not going to know what call it is. It might be the next call. It might be 300 calls from now. If you feel your emotions coming on and you know that you just can't do this, and I like explained, if it makes a difference in patient care, you've just got to fight through it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hate to say that to somebody, but you got to fight through it because this patient is depending on us. As we get more help, if there is enough help that the patient care will continue to, increase and get better, and you can step out with affecting, patient care, please just tell somebody you need to take a break and then exit. And maybe go sit in the car and show emotions, but we try to do our best not to show it. In this case, it was a pretty overwhelming deal. So the emotions came out, and it didn't bother me at all because I know what happens when you bottle your emotions up.
Sure,
It just comes back and gets you from experience. So for him to be able to show the emotions there and nobody, none of the team critiqued him or said anything negative about it, I have no problem with that, as long as it doesn't affect patient care.
Sure.
And I think a lot of that is probably the better question, Steve, in a sense, is, so to answer your question, I think it partly depends on the call too. But generally, at least for me, the emotions aren't even there until it's done. So it might be when we leave. Now, in a case like this, whenever there's CPR and they don't make it, there's always this, because there's a phone call. The lead paramedic makes a phone call to med control, at least in our area, and then a doctor calls it. And then there's that realization that all the work, everything you've put in, it didn't help. And then the realization of, like, okay, this is done. And that's when the emotions can catch up, depending on, I mean, some calls it doesn't bother me. In that case, it's even though in like watching, and even for me knowing, like, okay, you do this long enough and you go, this person isn't going to make it. We're doing our best. We're going through the motions, and we're not just doing it lightly. We're doing our best, but we're doing this for the family. This person isn't going to make it. Mm-hmm. Even still, it's that final, when everybody gets up and steps back, it's the reality of this person didn't make it. And it's in those moments that, okay, if for whatever reason you need to sit down and compose yourself or shed some tears, it's over now.
Because when you're going to the call and you're on the call, you're in, I'll say, the zone.
Right.
You kind of go into autopilot a lot of times, unless something really weird happens that you got to stop and think about it. But a lot of times you get in the zone and training takes over, and you're emotionless, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then once that call is over, or that phone call is made, or the last patient's in the ambulance taken off, now there's like, and I don't know, maybe that's a subject that I need to think about seriously. You're not trained for, now the last patient's in the hospital and they leave. You pick up the cones, you do these. Now you have time to be yourself. And we'll go back, this is way off subject. So when we go back to the call, to put a little perspective on why emotions were showed, is the team member that first got on scene has a child about the same age.
Yeah.
And then when I get there, I see my grandson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that,
and others had close, same thing, right?
So when you can replace somebody that you really, really love in place of a stranger, it just absolutely hits you worse.
Sure.
For me, it does.
Well, because you see that person that you love.
Right.
Exactly what I saw the whole time.
You form more of an attachment, because now it's literally
him.
I know how I would feel if.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And literally, we got back to the station. I got a truck. The first thing I did is text my son and ask him for a video of my grandson, so that I knew he's okay.
Yeah.
Jesus wept.
Yeah. Well, that's great to show some emotion to it, even to let the viewer know, and people know that, again, you guys are human and you guys are dealing with real stuff, and whether, the firefighters can walk around and be as macho as they want, but deep down they're really hurting on the inside, and they're dealing with some really, really powerful emotions that a lot of the public never. There's a lot of people in the public will never deal with what you guys deal with.
Right.
They may never ever have to deal with something like that, even in their own personal lives.
Oh, and that's
in their own home, or
that's kind of one of the problems too. Is like in this case, she says even some of the firefighters were crying, and it almost makes you go like, "Do you not realize we're human?"
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so a few of us broke down while you could see us, but do you not realize that a lot of us do that but we're not on scene.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
And
we're human. We're
they're
human.
we carry those calls like that. I will forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just burned in your brain.
But-
Remember, we had the
yeah.
conversation where you talked about our memory, how amazed you were at the memory. Well, that's another one of those that forever now that will be burned, and not to take it away from the family because they have the greater grief yet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But people don't realize that a lot of times when I look at calls now, when I see calls, something happens on the news, my very first thought now is about the firefighters and thinking about what they went through, what they're going to have to carry, and all. That's my first thought now.
Well, and this whole topic right here, what we're talking about, is a great reminder for the viewer that's watching right now that, and you just brought it, that when the firefighters go on these calls, that the normal public would be a disaster for them. That you guys are in that mode. I have a job to do. I can't grieve right now. I have to do everything I can to make this situation right, no matter what the situation is. But letting these people know that when the call is over and you guys get away, that you guys grieve with this, because that's when the human comes out in that sense. Because I think the public just sees you guys as heroes, and it's like almost you have like a cape on and you're flying in to make things right. And a hero, a superhero doesn't cry. Right. And so when they see that emotion, they go, oh, my goodness. Yeah, they're not a superhero. They're just a human being that's put in a position to be one for however many minutes or hours of whatever the call is. But the reality is they're no different than me, And
the other thing they see that bothers them is the other side of that. And at the exact same scene, afterwards, the family's there. They're obviously trying to deal with this thing. And then there's some guys that are laughing, cutting up and laughing.
yeah.
And then the public gets upset about that. Those are the same guys that I happen to know were grieving.
Yeah.
But that's part of how we deal with that. And that's part of how we work through it. And, for those listening, if you ever hear somebody, well, the firefighters don't care, they're laughing and joking on scene and somebody was dead or whatever, be quick to say, no, they care.
Because if they weren't laughing, they'd be crying.
Right.
Or,
right.
the dark emotions would be taken over.
Yep,
absolutely.
Yeah, those are the same guys that we, they're struggling. I know for a fact they are because they said they are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's another side of that is and for us, you have to compartmentalize, and because I mean, you think even in this, you can show up to a terrible accident and you're in the zone, you do the job, you get them out, whatever. But especially if it's a fatal, now you got to stay there in the middle of all this while the police, because you're helping shut the road down. Not to be too graphic, some people don't realize this. If somebody died and we didn't get them out of the car yet, we got to sit around while the police do all their stuff before we can even cut them out of the car. Like, we're stuck there in the middle of this. So you have to compartmentalize and be able to function normally in the midst of the chaos. And I don't think people realize that. And that's, I see it often. Oh, they're laughing and they don't care. And they care.
Yeah.
And they care.
Yeah, believe me, I can't imagine for any right-standing human, that anybody that's sensible, that you think this is fun for these guys? You think it's fun to deal with dead bodies and people dying, and especially some of the ones that are definitely hit more at home, a little child or whatever like that. That's not fun for anybody. No one's having a great time right now. This is just a really, really crappy, horrible situation, and they're just trying to make the best of what's going on and trying to do their job and be professional and trying to be, strong for the family who are dealing with this horrible situation. And believe me, no one's having a great time right now. And so for anybody to think that, it's like, well, and I get it, the perception, I get it, but
we also have to be in a place where we can go do that again in 5 minutes if we need to.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, in the case that we were talking about, now, thankfully for Rich's sake, And in that case, it was just traffic, but they literally came from a fatal accident. You guys had only been back, you hadn't been back very long at all from a fatal accident.
Probably a half hour
before this. Yeah. And I was actually really pleased. Somebody on Facebook within the comments, of course, everybody's on there talking about, and they said, man, I feel for everybody at Solon, they've had a rough night. And it was just some civilian, but they had known enough to pay attention and go, oh, they were on this is not easy for them.
Mm.
All right, well, I think we're going to end it there. We didn't make it to 10, but that's a good spot to end. And every once in a while we hit.
Does this mean we're going to have another episode?
No. And I'll still call it 10. 10 things. But even though it's not. Because we hit a rabbit trail, but I think it was a good rabbit trail. Every once in a while, our rabbit trails are profitable.
Yes. Yeah.
Only every
speaking to
once in a
somebody
while.
that's watching. I'll speak to somebody that's watching. That means something. That's good.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. By the way, always want to remind you to check out our sponsor, Faith Fortune, redflannelcoffeeco.com. Link in the description.
There you go.
Get some great fresh coffee there. Get some swag from Red Flannel Coffee, as well as Faith Fortune Fire. Grab some stuff there, and you can get 30% off your coffee order if you use the code PJ30 in the checkout. That is only for our listeners. Great coffee. Yes. Support Jake. He's not here, and we'll say good things about his coffee, not him.
Well,
right?
He's been sleeping for a half hour, so maybe next week
he needs some of that coffee.
He does.
Definitely needs
By the
some
way,
of the
make sure to share our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Please share it. And also, if you have anything you want to talk about, anything you want to share with us, anything that hit you here that we talked about today, go to ffifpodcast@gmail.com and share it with us, and we'll get back to you. So thank you so much.
Give us some show ideas.
Yes. Have a great day at work, eh?
Yep.
All right,
we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.